We gather today not in celebration of a single individual, but in recognition of the power of words that move us beyond the moment, beyond borders, and beyond fear. Words that remind us that hope is not blind optimism, it's the courage to face adversity with the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. We are not bound by the mistakes of our past, nor are we trapped by the limitations others place on us. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice if we are willing to reach up and help bend it. Change does not come from the halls of power alone. It begins in our communities, in our hearts, in our decision to stand up when it's easier to sit down, to speak out when silence would be more convenient. The world we want will not come easily. Progress is never simple or swift. But we must hold fast to the idea that each of us has a role to play, each of us matters, and each of us can make a difference. No one is born hating another person because of the color of their skin, their background, or their beliefs. If people can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We cannot afford to turn away from the cries of the oppressed or the struggles of the forgotten. Our freedoms are bound together, our destinies intertwined. What lifts one of us lifts us all. Let us choose unity over division. Let us choose empathy over indifference. Let us listen to one another, not just to respond, but to understand. We are the authors of the next chapter. Our voices, our actions, our willingness to believe that something better is possible, that is what will shape the future. The road ahead is long, the work is hard, and setbacks are certain. But history has always been shaped by those who dared to imagine something greater, and who never stopped pushing until it became real. So let us begin again, not with despair, but with determination. Not with fear, but with faith, and above all, with the unwavering belief that we are stronger together and that the story of humanity is still being written by us. Hope is often misunderstood as something passive, a feeling that things will somehow improve without effort. But true hope is far more powerful and far more demanding. It is not about wishful thinking or blind optimism. It is about choosing to believe in the possibility of change even when the evidence of progress is hard to see. Hope is a form of courage. It is the decision to keep moving forward when the road is uncertain, when the path is steep, and when the voices of doubt grow loud. To hold on to hope in the face of struggle is an act of defiance. It's refusing to let cynicism have the final word. In the darkest moments, when fear and frustration threaten to paralyze us, hope asks us to keep building, keep trying, and keep believing. It does not deny the existence of hardship. It insists that hardship is not the end of the story. Hope calls on us to look beyond our immediate circumstances and to see the potential in ourselves, in our communities, and in the world. It means recognizing that the challenges we face, whether they be poverty, injustice, conflict, or inequality, are not immovable. They are shaped by human decisions and they can be changed by human effort. Hope says this is not how the story has to end. Those who carry hope become beacons for others. When one person dares to hope, they inspire another to believe, and that belief spreads. Slowly, maybe, but steadily. Movements for change, whether for civil rights, equality, peace, or justice, have always begun with individuals who chose hope over fear, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Real hope never asks us to ignore reality. It demands that we see the world clearly, that we acknowledge what is broken, and still commit to fixing it. It insists on truth, but also on the possibility of redemption. It reminds us that no setback is permanent, no mistake is final, and no dream is beyond reach if we have the courage to keep striving. Hope is not passive, it is an active choice, a refusal to give up, a refusal to back down. And in that choice lies the beginning of every great journey toward progress. Change is often seen as the responsibility of leaders, governments, or institutions, but that view overlooks the most powerful source of transformation: ordinary people. Real change begins not in grand speeches or sweeping policies, but in the quiet strength of individuals who choose to act in their daily lives. It starts with someone deciding to speak up when it would be easier to stay silent, to stand for what is right even when they stand alone. History is shaped not just by the famous, but by countless unnamed people who took a stand when it mattered. Each of us holds the ability to influence the world around us. Whether it's through how we treat our neighbors, how we raise our children, how we speak to one another, or how we confront injustice in our own communities, our choices ripple outward. Small acts of kindness, courage, and responsibility may seem minor in isolation, but together they form the foundation of lasting change. When people begin to see themselves as agents of progress, they start to unlock the deeper power they hold, the power to shape culture, challenge norms, and move society forward. It is easy to feel powerless in the face of global problems. The scale of the challenges we face, climate change, inequality, violence, division, can feel overwhelming, but every major movement for justice, every meaningful step toward equality or peace, began with a spar, coffin lit by someone with no official title or platform. A single voice raised in protest, a single act of compassion, a single refusal to accept the status quo has again and again grown into something larger than anyone expected. Change is not an event, it is a process. And that process depends on people who are willing to begin where they are, with what they have. It requires individuals to recognize that their values, their actions, and their willingness to persevere are the building blocks of progress. It reminds us that we do not need permission to make a difference. We only need the conviction to try. When we accept that responsibility and take that first step, we inspire others to do the same. And when enough people act together, what once seemed impossible begins to become inevitable. That is how true change takes hold. From the bottom up, not the top down. Every person matters. In a world that often glorifies fame, wealth, and status, it is easy to overlook the quiet power each of us holds. But the truth is, the course of history has always been shaped by the actions of individuals, those who dared to believe their voice counted, their effort mattered, and their presence could make a difference. No contribution is too small when it comes to building a better world. Whether it's offering a hand to someone in need, standing up for a colleague, or mentoring a young person, every act rooted in dignity and compassion adds to the momentum of change. We often underestimate our influence. We imagine that only people in positions of authority can solve big problems or influence public opinion. But lasting progress has never been the result of top-down commands alone. It has always relied on the energy and conviction of everyday people: teachers, students, workers, artists, parents, those who step forward and say enough, those who say there's a better way and I'm willing to help create it. Each of us lives at the center of a network of relationships, family, friends, co-workers, neighbors. Our values, choices, and behaviors send signals through those networks. When we act with integrity, when we treat others with fairness, when we challenge injustice or simply choose kindness, we encourage others to do the same. That influence multiplies. A single moment of courage can spark a chain reaction that spreads far beyond what we ever imagined. The belief that one person can make a difference is not just a hopeful idea. It is a proven truth. The fight for civil rights, the struggle for independence, the movements for equality, peace, and human dignity all began with individuals who said, "I will not accept this." They did not wait for someone else to act. They became the leaders they were waiting for, and in doing so, they awakened the same power in others. So the question is not whether we are powerful enough to change the world. The question is whether we are willing to use the power we already have. When we embrace that truth, when we stop waiting for permission or perfection, we begin to understand that we are not bystanders in this moment. We are participants, co-creators of the world we live in, and the choices we make day by day will determine the future we leave behind. No one is born knowing how to hate. Hatred is not innate, it is learned. And if it can be taught, then so can love, empathy, and understanding. That truth is both a warning and a hope. It reminds us that prejudice and cruelty are passed down through words, behavior, and fear. But it also tells us that the human heart is capable of learning something different, something better. Love is not weakness, it is strength. It takes courage to open oneself to others, especially those who are different. It takes wisdom to see past fear and recognize the shared humanity in every person. From the earliest stages of life, children absorb the world around them. They are not born with bias. They acquire it through what they hear, see, and experience. That means our societies, our families, our communities carry the immense responsibility of shaping what future generations will believe about the world and about each other. If we allow hate to go unchallenged, it will continue to spread. But if we choose to model kindness, fairness, and compassion, we can begin to heal even the deepest divisions. Love, like hate, is contagious. A single act of empathy, moment of reaching across a line drawn by culture, race, religion, or identity, can shatter assumptions and dissolve walls that seemed unbreakable. When people see each other not as strangers or enemies, but as fellow human beings, the world begins to change. We begin to replace suspicion with understanding, fear with trust, and conflict with cooperation. This doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending that real injustices don't exist. It means addressing them not with vengeance or bitterness, but with a belief in something better. It means recognizing that the answer to hatred is not more hatred, but a deeper commitment to justice and healing. That's not an easy path, but it is the only one that leads to lasting peace. Every time we choose to teach love, through our words, our choices, our willingness to listen and learn, we create ripples of change. We show others, especially the young, that there is another way. And slowly, person by person, those ripples grow into waves. A world that learns love is a world that becomes harder to divide, harder to manipulate, and far harder to destroy. It becomes a world rooted not in fear of the other, but in hope for each other. Unity is not the absence of differences, but the ability to rise above them. In a world filled with diverse cultures, beliefs, and experiences, disagreements are inevitable, but unity is about choosing to recognize our common humanity even when we disagree. It's about understanding that we are bound together by more than what separates us, that our shared future depends not on defeating one another, but on finding ways to move forward together. Division may be loud, but unity is powerful. It does not require uniformity. It requires mutual respect and the willingness to listen, to learn, and to care. When we choose unity, we push back against the forces that seek to divide us, fear, prejudice, and cynicism. These forces thrive when people are isolated, when groups are pitted against one another, and when anger replaces understanding. But when we choose to come together to build bridges instead of walls, we weaken those forces. We replace suspicion with trust and hostility with cooperation. Unity is what allows communities to thrive, democracies to endure, and nations to heal. Empathy is the foundation of unity. It means trying to understand the world through someone else's eyes, to feel their struggles, to hear their hopes, and to acknowledge their pain. Empathy doesn't require that we always agree. It only requires that we care. When we take the time to truly listen, we often find that the walls between us are not as high as they once seemed. We begin to see ourselves in one another and that recognition is the starting point for reconciliation and cooperation. Unity also demands responsibility. It asks each of us to step outside our comfort zones and consider how our actions affect the larger community. It requires us to be honest about injustice and inequality, not to divide or blame, but to correct and improve. Unity means striving not only for our own success, but for the well-being of others. It means lifting as we climb, making space for all voices, and standing up for those who are too often silenced. The strength of any society is not measured by how deeply its people agree, but by how well they treat one another when they don't. When we choose unity over division and empathy over indifference, we lay the groundwork for lasting peace, resilient communities, and a future shaped by collective purpose rather than personal gain. In unity, there is strength, not because we all think the same, but because we are willing to walk together in pursuit of something greater. The future is not something that simply happens to us. It is something we shape with every decision we make, every step we take, and every voice we raise. Progress is not inevitable. It is earned. It is built by people who are willing to believe that something better is possible and who refuse to let setbacks define what's achievable. The path forward is rarely straight or smooth. It twists, it turns, and it tests us, but throughout history, the people who have moved the world were not the ones who waited for perfect conditions. They were the ones who acted despite the obstacles. It is easy to be discouraged in the face of injustice or overwhelmed by the scale of the challenges ahead. But those who make a difference are not driven by ease or certainty. They are driven by conviction. They understand that real change requires effort, persistence, and sacrifice. They know that progress often comes slowly and that failure is part of the journey, but they also know that every effort matters. Every voice raised against wrong, every hand extended in compassion, every choice to do what is right rather than what is easy brings us closer to the world we hope for. The most powerful movements in history have not been led by the powerful alone. They have been powered by the courage of ordinary people who saw injustice and decided to act. People who believed that their voices mattered even when the world told them to be quiet. People who planted seeds of change, knowing they might not live to see the harvest, but trusting that others would. They understood that the work of building a better future is never finished, because each generation must take it up and carry it forward. So now it is our turn. The world we leave behind is not written yet. It will be shaped by what we do, by the compassion we show, and by the courage we summon. We do not need to be perfect. We do not need to have all the answers. We simply need to begin, with hope, with heart, and with the determination to keep going even when the road is hard. Let us rise to meet this moment together. Let us believe, as others before us have believed, that the work of justice, peace, and dignity is worth it. And let us remember that the future is not written for us, it is written by us.